Welcome back to the XFL Fan Zone. And today was the last day of XFL minicamp for all teams. And here in New York at MetLife, we have what you call a meet your seat gathering at MetLife Stadium, and also meet Commissioner David Luck. Only problem is because of the weather, Commissioner Luck did not make it when he was supposed to come on around 6:30. Janet Duke, the president of the Guardians, said that he's currently circling the Newark airport trying to land right now, so him getting on time was not going to happen. So they did a Q&A with Janet Duke, the team president, as well as John Peterson, one of the people player personnel, as well as two of his co-workers, and ESPN's Rossini, I want to say Diana Rossini, was also there to take questions, and there are a lot of good questions made. You could definitely tell who the real football fans there are and who are the newcomers trying to learn about the league. And you have one guy, and you'll notice him right away. They could have asked a more colorful guy to get the first and last question. You'll notice him right away. But we get there. You got the ability to go on the field, have your photo taken up there. You have the ability to go up in the stands and find your seat for the season. I will show you a video of that as well. They also give you a goodie bag for the XFL shop. One of this was the drawstring bag you've seen on the XFL site. And the other thing they gave me was a mesh hat, which you've seen on the XFL. They also give these here over at West Point at the minicamp. So I got two of these now, which is great. And all in all, it was a fun night despite Alva Luck not being there. The Guardians did a good job. Then we went to Coach's Lounge at MetLife Stadium, which is where the high rollers of the Jet and Giant season ticket holders spend their time during the season. But all in all, good event. And so here we go with the footage. Quick video. And I am here at my seat in MetLife Stadium. I'm in section 126, seat 1, row 4. The red tags are still, the seats are available if you want a season ticket in this section right now. Pretty soon we're going to be seeing Commissioner Alva Luck. He'll be doing a Q&A with the fans and telling us what's going on in the league. And just think, folks, we're only 53 days away from kickoff. And yes, I've never sat this close at any professional football game in my life, so I am pretty excited. So any missed field goals, I have a chance of catching a football. You see the Jets ring around over there. The Giants are over here. Did you say your name was again?
Kayla.
That is Kayla.
Hi.
She showed me to my seat. She's from Tampa.
Yeah.
I hope she's not a Vipers fan, but I won't hold it against her either. This is going to be my home away from home for the next 5 games. Hopefully some playoff games as well. Alright folks, we're going to head back inside, catch some more food, and wait for the commissioner to show up. We are expecting Commissioner Alva Luck any moment right now. We are the Coaches Club at MetLife Stadium. Stay tuned, everyone. Well, hello fans. We're live at MetLife. This is the Meet Your Seat event. We'll also be seeing Commissioner Luck in a little while. This is a pretty cool opportunity just to get this close. Of course, in there is the Coaches Club, where I just had some dinner, courtesy of the Guardians. And man, this is the closest I've ever been to any kind of professional football field, so this is pretty awesome. What's up? So around 6 o'clock, I think, Commissioner Luck will be out here. He will do some question and answering with the fans. Like I said, the XFL is 53 days away from kickoff. And you see that some people out there looking at their seats right now. So, I'll be going upstairs right now. I'll be back. Give you some video with Commissioner Luck also.
Office has been here this afternoon, and we've enjoyed meeting you. We know we have season ticket holders in the room, we know we have fans in the room, and we can't wait for the season to get started. For us, we are probably less than 60 days away, and we are thrilled to call MetLife Stadium home. The staff here has been best in class, and they are helping us get ready for our first game. So with that, a couple of quick changes to the program. Commissioner Luck is, I think, circling Newark Airport somewhere right now. His flight was delayed, and what we have for you today is an exciting program, and our football operations here came down from practice, and what we're going to do is share more insights about our team, and they'll take you through their process of how we've drafted players and how training camp is going, and we're excited for you to meet them as well. And what I'd love to do right now is make sure that we will invite all of you back when Commissioner Luck is back in town, whether that is in January or in the season, so you do get a chance to hear from him. So, you know, he apologizes, can't control the weather, and we're going to have a great program tonight. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our host tonight, on-air broadcast for ESPN and XFL games, and I believe newest Guardians fan?
Biggest one.
All right, please welcome Diana Rossini.
Ready?
Hello.
Thank you for coming here. I am the president of the Guardians fan club, really only because I'm a New York, New Jersey girl, so I got a big box of gear sent to my house. I said, oh, I see what they're doing here. They're already trying to woo me here with free hats and sweatshirts. I was just telling the guys in the back that there is so much hype right now about what the XFL is going to be, what kind of football we're going to see. I get to cover the NFL every week, and I've had players who know I'm going to be involved with the XFL ask me tons of questions already. And one of the things that I like so far from the guys that are in the NFL, they've already shared just sort of their enthusiasm for the league and support of wanting to see other players succeed. So I just think the fact that they're psyched about it, I think that's going to be sort of a contagious energy, which is why when they asked me if I wanted to be the sideline reporter for the ABC broadcast of these games, it was like a no-brainer. I think it's important to probably also share for those of you, I hope you're going to be going to as many games as possible, but if you're going to be watching, I know I can speak for ESPN, there is so much investment in this league. And I think this is really what's going to make it different than what we've seen with other leagues that have tried to get up on its feet in the past. I know the president of my company, Jimmy Pitaro, he and I have had tons of conversations about the importance of the league. And he essentially said to me, whatever you guys need, just tell me, because that's how much they want to make this work. And I can tell you just from seeing some of the plans that they have from the business side of it, I really think this is going to be something that we're to look back on in a few years and be like, remember when we weren't so sure about it all? How about the Guardians, champs for like 6 years in a row now, you know? So I know you guys probably have tons of questions and probably just want to know more. I know I felt that way a few weeks ago. I was coached up a little bit. I feel like I know a good amount now, but I think you're probably here because you want to know those or talk to those that are part of the Guardian organization right now. So with that, I would like to introduce my buddies who I just met a minute ago, but they're my friends already. Let's start with John Peterson. He's the director of football operations, 46 years in covering football, being part of football. Carolina Panthers, I think it's like 1 or 2 Super Bowls, right? Yeah, just a couple, no big deal. So he is the Guardians director of football operations. Trent McCachran, come on up. He's the director of the player personnel. He's with the Cleveland Browns. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs for years. And Evan Ostro is the player personnel scouting and analytics manager. so these are 3 important people that have built what this Guardians team has become. So we'll sit here and get you started. All right. Oh, just so you know, we're gonna have Q&A at the end, so I'm sure you'll be sitting there wanting to ask questions, but we'll get to you. We have tons of time, so we'll be able to chat about anything that you guys want to know. But I think the most common thing that everyone kind of wanted to start with was just how did this come together in terms of putting together these rosters for all these different teams. So I'm going to start here just going back to the process that these guys went through to find the players. So Tripp, if you could explain how you guys started to find the guys that you wanted to be on the New York Guardians.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, each XFL team, each XFL city, of which there's 8, had a showcase this summer. And so at each showcase, there were roughly 100 to 150 players trying out to be part of the XFL. Some of them came directly from college. Some of them had been in the Alliance of American Football this past spring. Some of them had been in the NFL. And so what we started, JP and I started doing was we did all 8 showcases, and so we got to know that group of roughly 1,000 players pretty well. And along with Evan and Chris Thompson, who's not here, we evaluated each player both before the showcase and after the showcase. So that gave us a pretty good feel for the baseline of what the group, the player pool was going to look like. We then, JP and I traveled to NFL training camps this summer, and we hit 24 out of 32 training camps to see which players, might not be quite good enough for the NFL, but which would be, ideal fits for what we're trying to build here. So those players from both the showcases and from NFL cuts formed the nucleus of what was roughly a 1,200 player draft pool, from which each XFL team drafted 70 players on October 15 and October 16. So it was a really comprehensive process that the league helped us to facilitate by building a draft pool, and by which each team built their own draft pools.
So just timeline-wise, so this is June up into NFL training camp, which usually wraps up end of August. So at this point, you guys have a few guys in mind, or at least a good amount of men involved that you're looking at. JP, when you started to look at these players, what process did you go through to evaluate their ability?
Basically 4 steps, okay, when looking at football players at any level. And that first step is to identify those players. You figure that of the 8 showcases, approximately 150 players per showcase. You can do the math on that. That's a lot of people to look at. It's a lot of people to try to get an idea. So out of those showcases, our objective was to start by identifying those players who obviously have some ability, who when they tested, showed good results. When they caught the ball, or whatever drill they were doing, showing a skill level that could be there even further up. So identification is the first process. And out of those 8 different sites, that's a lot of identifying the players. The second phase is to then qualify them. Height, weight, speed, how they catch a football, those skill levels. We start to qualify them. Is he too big? Is he too small? How does he fit what we're going to do? And again, we had met with the coaching staff, so we had an idea on the offensive side, the kicking side, of the parameters that our coaching staff were looking for, okay? When you go out, I don't want a small guy. I'm a big guy. It's a big man's game, and so forth. So then we get to the third phase, which is evaluation. And Tripp has been talking about that, and the hours and hours of film evaluation, writing reports, making comments, putting grades on people on a grading scale that he brought with us. And from that, we can then start to work it through it, all right? And then the final phase, of course, is then in college, it's recruitment. In the professional football, it's selection, as he's talked about the different draft processes that we've had. So those are the 4 phases that we've been through at this point to get where we are today.
All right, so at this point, these guys have been working hard, learning the different players, trying to see what guys are going to build who the Guardians will eventually be, and hopefully be able to get them in the draft. So fast forward, so now we're in October. October 15, 16 was the first draft, and I think most of us here heard about it, followed it, maybe even saw it live online, or I know ESPN, we did a couple segments on it, but Can you guys just maybe go through what that process was, what the rules were, because it is a little different than let's say, just a regular draft?
Sure. So the league broke it up into 4 separate buckets. The first bucket was the offensive skill bucket, which was quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. The second bucket was offensive line. The third bucket was defensive front 7, so any defensive linemen and linebackers. And then the fourth bucket was secondary. And the reason that they did that was so that you wouldn't have one team that hoarded all of the best offensive linemen and another team that had, subpar offensive linemen, just as an example. So it really enabled us to focus on each position group, one at a time, and make sure that we were nailing that draft as best we could, without having to worry about missing out on any specific group, as somebody else, capitalized on.
What was that like going through the process of drafting, trying to get, there had to be some players there that were at top of your board that you wanted to get. Was it a nerve-wracking experience? How was that like for you? You've been in draft rooms or war rooms before.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're building a team like this from scratch, it's always interesting to see how different teams see the board, right? And you find out that especially when there's no Mel Kiper and Todd McShay that are sort of influencing, guiding the way, so to speak. No, but it teams tend to look at these players somewhat similarly, but not all the time. So we felt really good about the players we were able to draft. We felt good seeing them on field so far since they've been in minicamp the last couple weeks, and we're really excited about putting it all together.
JP, when you were going through the draft process together, how would you describe the guys that you put together in terms of the roster? So once you have your roster set or close to being set, what's the identity of the Guardians after that draft?
Well, I think the identity starts basically with the coaching staff. What do they want? What's the culture that they want to develop? What's the identity? Are we going to be a heavy run team? Are we going to be a pass team, a combination? On defense, are we going to use a 3-man front? Are we going to be a blitz team? So those are the ways that we put things together. But from the personnel standpoint, we're looking at those players to meet the needs of the coaching staff. No doubt, that's the most important thing. So with that, when we begin to procure the talent, we're looking for to meet the needs of the coaching staff and the system that we have. In many cases, we feel very good that we've been able to do that. But when it gets to certain positions, there's certain criteria. I can't have a 5'6" corner. It's a big man's league. We've got to have certain height criteria involved. Now, every once in a while, you're going to have a very special player who's below the criteria, whatever it might be, but he has some certain skill levels that are just exceptional. So those are the type of things we've been through. And believe me, visiting with the individual position coaches as Tripp has worked with us and setting it all up and getting through it, that's where we then start to say, okay, look, this guy is a big end. This guy is a split end. This guy can be the nickel corner. This guy can be this and that. Okay, we get into those type of identifying the position that these players are qualified for.
And just to add, in case you don't know, the quarterbacks, they weren't drafted. Matt McGloin, how did the quarterbacks come together? How did the league decide which quarterback went with which team?
So this process was sort of a matchmaking process. So that the starting quarterbacks were not part of the draft pool. The league asked every team, going back to early June, to put together our list of 7 to 10 quarterbacks that we thought could be starters for us, or the starter for us. And so I'm very fortunate that I have a staff of guys like JP and Evan and Chris. And so we got together and watched tape of upwards of 50 quarterbacks back in June when we first got together as a staff. And through that process, we came up with a list of about 20 guys that we thought were worth bringing to our coaches for them to look at. And as our personnel staff and our coaching staff reviewed the film and put our list together, we found that the one guy that was at the top of both of our lists was Matt McGloin, right? And so the league then took our list and reached out to the top guys on it. Obviously, Matt was the first call. And they started to try to feel out whether Matt would be amenable to playing here for us, and what the contractual parameters might look like, and we started to kind of whittle it down. And so that process, really took about 4 months, start to finish. And then We announced on October 15th, the day of the draft, who the starting quarterbacks were going to be for all 8 teams in the league. So, we're very excited to have Matt as our quarterback, and so far from what we've seen, he's lived up to all of our expectations.
We've obviously all seen him play. Spent years with the Raiders, the Texans, I think 1 year, the Chiefs as well. Oh, what type of quarterback can we expect? Where is he at right now?
Well, it's interesting because Evan down here spent some time at Penn State, both as an undergraduate and as in the football office working in recruiting. And obviously Matt McGloin is a big Penn State alum and had a lot of success there, coming from being a walk-on to being the starting quarterback. So Evan was really one of the first to give us some insight into Matt. So you could talk about him, sir.
Yeah, Matt is, just to begin with, his personality, I think you guys are all gonna identify. He's a true everyday man. He's a hard worker, brings the energy and attitude every day. He's prepared every day. He's a good decision maker. He's accurate with the football. He distributes the ball well. He's gonna, he was always, and then everything at Penn State happened in 2012. He couldn't have been more clutch and big time for us. He got us to a lot of games. Northwestern were down 9 with like 6 minutes left, rushes in for a touchdown. He was just, Scranton Scrapper. That's what everyone kind of called him. He's just everything you would want as a leader and a QB1 for an organization that's literally coming up from the ground up. He's there every day, and you know what you're going to get out of Matt. And I think that's something that's really understated and really building of the team. He's a true leader.
I had the opportunity to watch Matt 2 years ago in Kansas City's camp. And then when I went back and really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it from the standpoint of his accuracy. In short, intermediate, and long games, he's very, very accurate. I thought his arm strength was above average at that time, but I think it's better than that now. And I'm working with him every day. Then last summer, when I was in Kansas City's camp, I was talking to Andy Reid, a longtime friend of mine. I said, Coach, tell me about Matt McGloin. He looked at me and goes, well, I wish he was in this camp right now. And Coach said, I said, tell me about him. He said, well, first of all, when I was at Philadelphia, we played Oakland, and he was the starting quarterback, and he gave us fits. I loved his tenacity, his aggressiveness, his competitiveness. And I said at that time, after they played him, and he just gave all a handful of that they could handle with Philadelphia Eagles. He said, if I get an opportunity to get him, I'm going to go get it. And that's what he did. And so he just praised me. And believe me, he thinks very, very highly of Matt McGloin.
Jake, I feel like it takes a lot to impress you. So I'm going to take your word that he's certainly the leader of this team, and we should see a good performing quarterback who obviously can handle a lot of situations as we saw him in his career. So timeline-wise, right, so we got up through the draft here. There was a second draft. That brings us to December, where minicamp began. It goes from December 3rd to the 17th is around the time. So the guys are together. Tell me, what is minicamp been like?
Well, so you're obviously starting from scratch, right? So the coaches are getting to know the players are getting to know the coaches and one another. And so, it's really been awesome to watch our coaches take hold of the process, right? To get these guys in the building and really, get them to open up and get comfortable with one another. Jim Herman, our defensive coordinator, is a really energetic guy. He was the linebackers coach for many years for the Giants as well as the Jets. And so he's got them communicating. His big thing is he wants eye contact from every one of them, and he wants them to be paying attention at every meeting and to know each other's names, and that kind of communication, that kind of energy, and to watch them flying to the ball on defense. You can tell it starts with the coordinator and it comes forward. And then obviously Coach Gilbride on the offensive side of the ball, with his offensive experience and expertise, having led the Giants to 2 Super Bowls along with Coach Coughlin, and that toughness and that edge, he sets a tone when he walks in the meeting every morning, and the players feed off of it, and you can tell that toughness is something that's going to be carried forward. He's very precise as an offensive technician. He's got a great staff of teachers, and it's really cool to watch him, honestly, to work with these players, who have all had football taken away from them at some point. Every one of them's been cut at one point or another, and every one of them has had to answer the question about their football mortality, is this the end? Do I get another chance? And so, for these players to be back on the field is really something that's been a joy for them, and it's been a joy for us, quite honestly, to be a part of seeing it and to help provide them with an opportunity to live their dreams, whether it's to play at the next level somewhere, whether it's just to continue playing at this level as long as they can. They love the game, we love being a part of helping them play the game, and quite honestly, watching that energy and that camaraderie build as we go has been just so much fun to be a part of.
When you mention all these coaches that are part of the Guardians, I mean, for me, my thought is, I'm assuming a lot of people here are either Giants, Jets fans, or New Yorkers who are well aware of what those guys were able to do for teams. I mean, having that amount of experience on this team, on a first-year team, where have you seen it be beneficial, John? Where have you seen, because you have obviously plenty of experiences yourself, where have you seen it have a direct impact on even just at the start of minicamp?
Well, minicamp is a time when people start to feel each other out as far as, boy, who's this guy? Who's that? I'm still wearing my name tag. Who are you? And so putting names and faces together is the first challenge. And then from that, we move forward at the positions. And obviously, when we're watching practice, all of us are around the field, and our eyes are on players. And I'm looking at my depth chart, and I'm thinking, okay, who's 36? Oh, yeah, that's the guy we looked at this game, and so forth. So we're trying to get a feel. It's a feel-out game to start with. Just who are these guys? We like them, but now let's put the name and the face together and move forward. And then from that, it's to see how they fit based upon the fact that we know what our coaches want. Now, is it really true this guy can run? Is it really true he can take the top off on a deep ball? Is it true that he's one of the best route runners in the game? Okay? Now, we got two big guys on defense that certainly could be playing today right now in the NFL. We're delighted to have them. One is 367 and the other is 342. And they're all about 6'5", and they are strong, and they can hold it. And those two guys are perfect fits for the defense that we're running. So that's what's fun part about putting it together and watching it happen. And then on the other side, we've got some guys that, I really like him, but I'm just, at this point, he's just a little slower in this and that and so forth. So, but the process goes on. It doesn't stop just because we've got the team.
What about them getting to know each other? I mean, these are guys, I'm assuming, who they may know each other just from playing football these years, whether it was college or in the league, but how has that been, watching them come together to get to know each other?
Yeah, and I think Evan can speak to that, because Evan helps check the players in each day and rides the bus with them to practice, checks them and makes sure that everybody's getting to their weight sessions, etc.
Yeah, I mean, Diana, you were saying what were you guys looking for in the makeup of the team? We brought up a lot. Is he going to be a fit for the area? And I think that's a true reflection of our roster. I mean, the guys that come together, it's never pulling teeth with them. They get along extremely well. There's no 8-year vet who's making leaps and bounds more money than the next guy. The camaraderie is incredible, just riding the bus. I mean, yesterday we literally had an argument who is a more successful actor, Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson. And it just guys are from all over the country with their input here and there, and everyone really gets along. The group, that's truly been the best part coming to work every day, is just the overall energy of the team and the roster and the makeup. We're going to be an exciting and fun team to watch, and the guys truly do enjoy playing with one another.
I made the comment to Coach Kilbride the other day after about day 4. I said, Coach, just listen. We're in the dining hall. It's dinner time. Coach, just listen. Hear that buzz? It wasn't like that 2 days ago. These guys are assimilating, communicating, developing relationships with each other. And it's exciting. And like on the bus, he's on bus. I'm on the offensive bus. He's got the defense. And the offensive guy says, you can't run that route like I can. I'm the best at running that route. So we get lots of camaraderie.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of NFL camps that you go to today, they'll have music on the sideline, colleges. We do not, right? But it's never quiet. And you don't even notice the lack of music, because guys are hooting and hollering and getting after it, offense to defense, offense within each other, defense within each other. It's a really positive group. The teaching and the coaching is going on continuously, and you can tell the players' energy just carries the day.
Have you guys done any team bonding events, or are you going to have any to just sort of help them learn each other?
Quite honestly, we had a community service event that Gina and Janet and their group led, and I think you know, the guys enjoyed getting out and serving, and they broke up into 6 or 7 different groups with about 6 or 7 players per group, and you know, that was a tremendous bonding experience for them. But I think, quite honestly, they bond just being together on the field, in the hotel, in meeting rooms, and it's like they've known each other for a long time.
All right, so they're at minicamp now. You guys are gonna break. They're gonna have the holidays with their family. Then you guys are gonna come back together, and then training camp starts in Houston in January. Take us through that. How long is that gonna be, and sort of what's the plan there?
So coaches report to Houston on January 3rd, players report on January 4th, and then they'll hit the field on January 5th. We'll be down in Houston until January 22nd, so 17 days on the field. We'll have 4 practices or games against other XFL teams. So a couple joint practices and then a couple scrimmage type situations / preseason games. You know, so we'll get to know how they do, not only in pads on the field, you know, amongst each other, but also against other teams, other opponents. And then we cut down to 52 players. We'll be at 70 going down to training camp. We'll be at 52 coming home on January 22nd. And, you know, we'll have a couple weeks to get settled in back up here again, get used to the weather. And then we open at home on February 9th against Tampa.
It's interesting because when you move an entire football team for 3-4 weeks down to another location, obviously the movement stage is very strong. Okay, so we're in the Sheraton Galleria towards the downtown of Houston. Our facility will be Houston Baptist University, and we have their locker room, their training room, their strength room, all their facilities, as well as the field, of course, we have. And so do the other 7 teams in the league have their own facilities around the city of Houston. It could be at a high school, it could be at Rice University, it could be at Texas Southern. So we will move around when we have scrimmages with them and joint workouts and so forth. And then, as Tripp said, we'll come back up when that's all done. Reductions will be made, and we'll come back up here. And we are in the Sheraton Mahwah is our headquarters for our training complex on the 11th floor, and they've just remodeled it. We're happy to be in there. So it's great.
All right, well, I feel like we laid out sort of the nuts and bolts, hopefully a little Cliff's Notes version of sort of where we're at now, and you know, we're almost about a month and a half out from game day, and when this gets started, and I feel like you guys probably have tons of questions, so I want to make sure we have enough time for them. I was going to talk more here, but I feel like we should probably get to some of yours, and you got your hand up already, so I want to start with you. Is there a way we want to do this, Gina? Is there a microphone? Or do we want them just...
I can project.
Oh, I like that. You're a great reporter.
A lot of what you've said so far comes down to 100 million miles of study. You watch guys, you go to camps, you do the films. But you said at the beginning, ESPN believes in them a lot more than these other startup leagues. I fail to see what part of your model, from what you said, separates you from the fall experimentally. I mean, I realize I'm the only person in this room who truly believes the league folded the first time because Matt Bessarian is a timid little bitch. But there's a lot more to it than that. So what truly separates you from other startup leagues?
Yeah, I think I certainly can't speak to. I certainly can't speak to all the startup leagues, but I think that what the XFL does have is a tremendous amount of resources and a tremendous amount of time in preparing to put this product on the field. And I know that you know, we're very excited with the caliber of player that we've been able to add here in New York, and I'm sure that the other 7 teams feel the same, in that they're very excited about the team that they're able to build. You know, the players are really enthusiastic. We've got, you know, a tremendous coaching staff with a lot of NFL experience. 90% of our roster right now has played in the NFL at some point, be it preseason game or regular season game. And so from that standpoint, no, we're certainly not the NFL, and we're not trying to compete with the NFL, but I do think that we're going to be a fun brand of football that fans can get behind. And hopefully, the more you guys watch, the more you like, and hopefully we'll put a winning product on the field.
And the difference here, just from the experience I've had now learning more about the league as well, the way you guys are, I feel bad that Oliver Luck is not here, but knowing the people that he's involved with when they were coming up with this league and putting it together, also just knowing to some of the coaches in the league that took jobs, that I talked to, that I had connections with through the NFL, about what Oliver's business model was, and sort of, I was really interested in how is he getting former coaches, players that have had success feel like they can have security in a league, because nobody wants to be embarrassed, nobody wants to be part of something that's going to fold. I certainly don't, these guys don't, and it really starts with Oliver. He is extremely impressive and business savvy, and the way they've developed this, they have a lot of hope, and they're backing it up. I can tell you that. John?
Well, I've been in a number of spring leagues of startups, okay? Slightly in the USFL, the World League of American Football, the Alliance. I've been in the CFL. And I can tell you the structure and the format of this league, the business plan, if you want to put it that way, is so detailed and so minute that everything is covered. There are nothing that's left undone. And with that program that you have already laid out in detail is going to produce production and quality. Quality programs build quality systems. And quality systems is production. And this is what this league has. It's a quality league.
And just from the broadcast side of it, so Saturdays on ABC, there will be a game in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. There will also be a game on Fox, and then on Sundays, there will be a game on ESPN and another game on Fox. So you're getting 4 games a weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Hi.
Hi there. Excuse my ignorance, but you guys said that you evenly distributed the starting quarterbacks among the different teams. I'm just curious, how did you decide on the backup quarterbacks?
So at this point, the backup quarterbacks that we have were drafted, right? So Marquise Williams was with JP in San Antonio. He played collegiately at North Carolina and spent some time with Green Bay in the NFL. And then Garrett Fugit played collegiately at Central Missouri. And so as we went through the process of watching tape on every player in the pool and then focusing specifically on the quarterbacks at that point, obviously we felt really comfortable with what those two guys brought to bear. The league is also working to assign a second quarterback to each team, and so that is something that might be a possibility as well.
The logo, I see a cat, but we're called the Guardians. Like, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about that? What that all means? What kind of cat it is?
That might be a question for Janet.
Yeah. It's not our department.
So the logo is certainly more of a prehistoric beast. And there's inspiration from the gargoyles that you see on buildings in Manhattan, right? And sort of the watchdogs around the city. I think Coach and I both interpret the logo and what the brand stands for as being on duty, right? Tri-state area, regional fans, right? Very much about resilience and hard work, right? And everyday heroes, and those values are what we want the team to reflect, and that's sort of what our brand stands for.
When the league starts in February, and as injuries unfortunately will occur, for players that have finished their NFL season, they're no longer under contract, be able to play in the league.
The short answer to that is yes. The league's also going to be creating some form of what's going to be called a Team 9, where some of the players who get released at the end of XFL training camps will go and train, in hopes of rejoining an XFL team at some point. So, say 5 players per XFL will go and practice, consistently throughout the season and be, working on their craft, so that as we have injuries and attrition, they'll be ready to join us and compete.
I think that particular part of the program comes from Oliver when he was the general manager in the Frankfurt Galaxy in the World League of American Football. And in Dallas, Texas, we had a practice team of about 45 players. And if someone got injured, you simply called up and said, here's your list of 5 defensive backs. You make the selection, they put them on a plane and got to us the next day. So I'm sure that's where Oliver has come up with that concept, no doubt.
Obviously, I recognize you from ESPN, but is there any plans to incorporate possibly a video game or an app or something with, obviously it's a big weekend for fantasy football, so I think that attracts a lot of revenue and interest in the league. Is there any plans to maybe market that? go at it. 'Cause I think that the last league that was just out there really wasn't anything geared towards kids, and I don't think that the younger guys got involved. Was there any plans to incorporate, like I said, a video game or fantasy?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because we know there's probably more fantasy football fans than NFL fans at this point. So, Janet?
Yeah, for sure. This is on. So there's a venue app coming that'll be more about the experience and about being here. And then certainly there are other conversations happening about gaming and fantasy and how to engage fans at a younger demographic and those that just really want more football and more deep experience. So all things coming in January that we'll be announcing.
So hold tight.
Two questions for you guys. Is it safe to say, since Kevin Gilbride is a coach, that Matt McGloin shares a lot of characteristics of Eli Manning? And T9, who will make up that team and who will coach them? And for the broadcast side, will ESPN be broadcasting the games locally on the ESPN radio networks and on satellite radio also?
You know, I think with regard to Matt, I think he has a lot of his own unique attributes, right? I don't think that, you know, we looked at it as, you know, trying to compare somebody to Eli, because obviously Eli's had a Hall of Fame career with 2 Super Bowls. So from that standpoint, you know, I think Matt has toughness. You know, he's overcome a lot in his career to become a starting quarterback, not only at Penn State, but in the NFL. He's had a lot of his own success in his own right. So I think from that standpoint, you know, we certainly weren't looking to compare him to anyone else, but, you know, just to value his own accomplishments and what he could bring for us. And then as to what Team 9 is going to entail, I'm not exactly sure who's going to coach at this point. That hasn't been announced to us. We just know the concept behind it.
As for the broadcast side of it, I know ESPN.com is going to be covering it full time. I know shows like NFL Live, SportsCenter, we're going to be having segments within those shows just as if it's any other league that we're covering. Okay. So you'll definitely be able to catch highlights, which is going to be cool. Like we're going to have on Saturday nights, Sundays, and Mondays of the, you know, you'll see the Guardians there. Radio, I'm not sure about. That one I'd have to get back to you on.
Okay.
Okay.
With you guys working with the spring league, what does that mean for potential players coming in on teams, like indoor leagues? How is the spring league a feeder for you guys?
You know, I don't know that there's any one particular league that's a feeder for us. One part of John's background as well as my background is that both of us were working in the Alliance of American Football. John was with San Antonio, I was with Arizona, and so we felt like not only with those 2 teams, but with the league and the alliance as a whole, that we had a pretty good feel for that demographic of player and for players that could potentially fit within the XFL. You know, certainly we're open to players from any other league, whether it's NFL, Spring League, CFL, Alliance, wherever it may be, Arena, as long as they can help us compete and win games at this level, right? So any player that's in the draft pool for the XFL will study, and we have studied closely, and we'll continue to do that. So, you know, from that standpoint, I don't think we're as focused on where players have come from as where they might be able to go with us.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the logo for the Guardians, when I saw it, I said it looked really similar to the Hitman logo. The one that they had for the Hitman. It's very similar to it.
I mean, with the logo, I'll just personal experience of mine. I mean, the second that logo came out, I got flooded with text and I really people love the logo.
I get that at all.
Yeah, we're really happy about the logo and everything about it.
I don't think the inspiration came from there. I think they really wanted to make sure that for the XFL launching in 2020, that the logos were more local to our city and had a new perspective about it. So I know a lot of agency work and internal creative services with headquarters for the development.
It's a little bit like the line, like the Hitman one was.
Can you go over some of the rules of that Monday morning quads?
So he asked about rules, right? I think that's probably the most common thing everyone wants to know. Is this going to be a traditional American football game? How are we making it different? So maybe instead of going through every rule, maybe a couple things that stand out.
Yeah, so the official rule book's going to come out in the next few weeks, obviously before the regular season. I think some of the highlights that we can expect, I think the game's going to be very fast-paced, possibly running clock. For the bulk of the time. I think they're going to do some things to encourage kick returns and punt returns. I think a couple of the highlights that have been talked about publicly are the point after touchdown. There's not going to be a kick, but rather the teams are going to have to decide whether to go for 1 from the 2-yard line, or to go for 2 from the 5-yard line, or to go for 3 from the 10-yard line. And then overtime is going to be some form of 11 on 11 on one side of the field and 11 on 11 on the other side of the field. Almost a soccer penalty kick type of situation where each team has the ball for 5 snaps to see how many touchdowns, or 2-point plays rather, that you can get.
On the kickoff, the kickoff cover team, as we understand it right now, we line up on the opposition's 45-yard line. We quickly back on the 35. And we want all kicks returned, not kicked out of the end zone every single time. In fact, if you actually don't put it in play, then it's I don't say a penalty, but there's some type of violation, whatever. But we want it all covered. And so when they have the people on the 45-yard line and they go down a shorter distance, there'll be less of impactful collisions versus running from the 35 all the way down. But we do want to have returns. We have a return, kickoff return, in every play that we'd like to have.
Yeah, so safety, I think, and speed are priorities for what you're going to be able to see in terms of roles.
Will it be any kind of final bowl game?
There will be a 2-week playoff game. It'll be 4 playoff teams, and there will be a championship game. Not exactly sure where the championship game will be.
They have a location, but they won't tell us because they want to surprise us all.
Just to piggyback off John's question before, in terms of like different feeder leagues and how you guys get the players, is there, not to compare apples and oranges, but I know in other leagues you can't really tamper and reach out to other players. And how do you guys reach out to players that either want to make it to the NFL or play in your league or other leagues?
You know, it's actually something that the league has their own scouting system, right? So there's a branch of the XFL league led by a gentleman named Eric Galco, who has done a phenomenal job of helping the clubs to build the draft board, and so to build the draft pool, I should say. And so obviously they are receptive to any players that we feel should be put in play, as well as players that they have scouted and found, throughout their experience as well. So, it's a very back and forth process in terms of, which players belong in the XFL. Certainly we hear from a lot of agents who feel like their players belong, and so from that standpoint, we obviously do a ton of work, watching tape on players to see if we feel the same way.
So before I ask my question, I'm going to make a prediction. This league is going to be very successful. So my question is, when I saw the name, I'm going to get back to the name again, Guardian, something like somebody protecting you. And, does it mean that we're going to see a gentler kind of football, or?
John?
Football is a physical game, okay? It's a big man's game. It's a lot of speed, a lot of size and strength and power and explosion. That's what this league's all about.
This man looks like he likes soft. I don't think so.
How are you paying the players? Obviously, to move to an area like New York, New Jersey, are you providing housing for them, providing meals, transportation, taking care of the guys? How are you doing that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So yes, they're flown in. They are housed at the hotel. We feed them, and obviously they're paid to play. So yeah, all of the necessities are taken care of, and they do earn a salary as well as health insurance.
Is there a scale, like for all the teams, if you're a certain position player type thing, this is what you make? Or
Well, without getting into too many specifics, it's a fairly flat and even scale. Yeah.
How long will players be contracted for?
They'll be under contract through the end of the XFL season. If they have the opportunity to go to the NFL at the end of the season, then they'll be able to do that.
We would still have the rights, though, if they were to come back the second year.
Go from team to team.
From XFL team to XFL team?
Oh, no.
No, so basically, if we were to trade them from one team to another, or if we release them, then they could go to another XFL team. Otherwise, then we would retain the rights.
Now, are they locked for the season? Meaning, like, the NFL can't knock on their door and take them away from a playoff game because they want them for a mini camp?
Correct. At this point, they're under contract with the XFL.
Will there be a chance for them to play in the NFL and the XFL? Because they're not going to play together. So, like, can they play, like,
Yeah, that's actually one of the cool things about our schedule, right, is that our season ends at the end of April. And so at that point, they haven't even missed but 2 weeks of the NFL off-season program. So if they've had a good season in the XFL, then it provides an enormous springboard and opportunity for them to re-sign or to sign for the first time with the NFL at the conclusion of our season.
What's the expected attendance at each game? You know?
Still working through it.
Yeah. No, my question is from a television perspective, this is a massive stadium, right?
Yeah.
If people are scattered throughout the stadium, very seats, I feel like that hurts the XFL, right?
Yeah, I know
Such a
we're
large
not
venue.
tarping. I know that for a fact. And I think I know for week one for sure, the plans are to have a really good crowd. I think there's a lot of enticing reasons to get people to want to come check it out. I just think people in New Jersey especially are just curious, what is this? What is this going to be? I think the interesting part is going to be where we're going to be at week 4, week 5 to try to fill, especially MetLife, as you know, is gigantic.
Yeah, we're focused on the lower bowl here.
Yeah, I can assure you that my director's really good.
Yeah, just one more. Will the uniforms and the ball have a chip in it? Like the uniforms and the ball be able to then be able to be transformed
That's-
to
Discussion, right?
That's still in discussion.
Scoring alternatives that you guys have put into place, is it more for entertainment type of situation, or are these fundamental changes that you have to see carry on into other leagues? And as far as not only the scoring, the officiating, and the reviewing, and all those other processes to keep your fast pace going, how do you guys see on that perspective as far as
I think, first of all, that goes to, you mentioned the word speed of the game, keeping the game going. Making a game instead of 3.5 hours, making it 2.5 hours, that type of thing. I think the audience enjoys that type of speed and proficiency. Now, that being said, we've got some creative features that you'll see in the game that, like other spring leagues tried, a couple leagues years ago, they had the camera that came behind, and eventually the NFL took that when the Alliance of American Football went down. That was one of their creativeness that they took with them, and now we see that all the time, okay? So there's some creative points that you'll see in our game that I'm sure other people will be very interested in.
The one thing I realized too, just from learning about the league over the last few weeks, it's not going to be gimmicky at all. I know early on I had thought that maybe it was going to have a little bit more of that flair that I think most of us kind of assumed that a league that wasn't going to be like the NFL would need. I think this is just going to be more great quality football than it is to try to have that entertainment value. And I think for the time crunch, the speed of it, because the games are only going to go max 3 hours. And from a broadcast side of it, we kick it at 2 o'clock, we're off the air at 5. So it's going to be moving quickly. So it's really just more great football. Go ahead.
So touching on what you were saying, you haven't heard from Mr. McMahon other than when he had the first press conference saying the XFL was coming back. Mm-hmm. Has he had any role in the revival of this league? Has he handed everything over to Mr. Luck so he could run the league? Have you guys met him? Has he been involved?
Yeah, from what I understand, this is really, I mean, he has a say, but Oliver is really taking the reins on it. The way it was explained is he obviously is a businessman and has his eye on a business that he's part of, but you're not going to see anything WWE related to anything in the XFL. It's not like we're just going to have any of that fantastic entertainment, but that's just going to stay with wrestling. You're not going to see that involved with our operation. He just happens to be part of it.
With that in mind, the First Incarnation focused a lot on whether it was pyrotechnics or cheerleaders or other mascots, things like that. The Guardians have cheerleaders, mascots, other fan-friendly options and things for the fans too. But I know you're focusing on a great game of football, but in addition, for stadium patrons, season ticket holders, everybody's there. Will there be anything like that?
Yeah, Donna, what
I feel like I need to see.
Yes, so there will not be cheerleaders. I think that was made announcement a few months ago, right? We are focusing on a family-friendly, accessible entertainment experience here. So you'll see is season ticket holders, there's a pass to get onto the field. You will see fan tunnels for some of our youth programs, right? and really just an experience really surrounded by football, and certainly more about fan accessibility onto the field, photos ops, opportunities to meet players, and really have a chance to engage the fan base and our team.
Early on, in the interest of speed, there was a rumor that there would not be a halftime. Is that the case?
No, there's still, it's gonna be a 10-minute halftime, so it's quick, because think the NFL's 12 minutes roughly, 13. So yeah, it's gonna be in and out.
I was talking to other fans about that. You might probably want to be careful with that, especially for people that are sitting here. It's 10 minutes is awfully quick to get up out of your seat, go get something to drink, and come back.
Yeah, but I think what you're thinking is a Giants game or a Jets game, right, where the lines are ridiculous. I mean, I hope we have lines like that, but, you know, a little Peloton action, get you in shape for those beer runs that you gotta make.
Is there gonna be a challenge, or how many challenges are there? If yes, are we gonna be able to listen to the challenge?
I think that's still in the works.
All right, last final questions, I'll take 2 more.
I know you mentioned it's going to be a little bit more of an up-tempo kind of offensive league, but will you guys be using a fullback?
I think there's something to be said for the element of surprise. And so I think we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Well played.
When will you be releasing personalized player jerseys that we can buy? Or will you?
Jerseys, there's a rolling phased approach right now where some of the replicas are going into market, and the Authentics, I believe, will be in January.
Well, I just want to say, as I'm about to be a season ticket holder, the main draw for me the first time was Vince McMahon put it eloquently when he said, "This is the NFL with balls." But now you've just said this is going for a more family-friendly atmosphere. Disney is ruling the broadcast side. Is this really just gonna end up like WWE? You're gonna pander to kids, and this isn't gonna be the adult-oriented physicality that fans want anymore?
No, you're just gonna get a really good football product. You're not gonna be distracted by cheerleaders and pyrotechnics. You're gonna get actual good football played by great athletes and great coaches.
What I'm really asking,
are you a football fan? Do you love good football?
But what I'm really asking, if you pay attention to sports like I do, are you gonna be to the NFL what the big 3 is to basketball, which is you gotta hit harder for it to actually be a foul?
No, it's gonna be nothing like that.
I'm Edward from Brooklyn, and I went up to West Point 4 days ago, and I met some real fine people up there. And I did 25 years in the Air Force Reserve down the Turnpike at Trenton area. Anyway, my question is leadership. I see it, and I was impressed 4 days ago making a trip up north. And this number 21, I'm not sure who he is. It said a bold statement. So I think it was you saying about team chemistry. It's very important. It's very vital for success, enhancement, the whole thing. Forget the cheerleaders. I think this team's going to be drawn on fan involvement. Basically, I just wanted to sum it up.
Oh, that's perfectly said, and we're so happy you guys are so steady.
Absolutely. Number 21 is Jamar Summers, and he'll be very happy.
And we can go
pass
get
my,
his Thank you for that. And I would say it's all about ultra access for our fans. So getting you to the field, getting you behind the scenes, that's really what we want to offer you. And aside from really kick-ass football.
Thank you. JP knows.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. I know the weather stinks, so we appreciate you being here.
So I think we do have one announcement. So I think with the weather, there are photo ops available onto the field, onto the sideline, if anyone still wants to head out there. The weather has cleared up. So thank you again for coming.
So what was the
mile on some boulevard.
Which number did you take? Did you take the 160?
What's 163 about?
Let's do like a last call. 163.
Well, this is the end of the night for us here. It's been a great event. They've let us come on the field right here. MetLife. Right there behind the goal post will be my section right there. No? Okay.
Sorry, guys. Right here, bring your chin down just a touch.
Yep.
Nice to be here.
Burn my bridges already.
What are the pallet boards all about here? Keeping it tarped down.
Nope.
I wasn't sure if it was
53 days, everyone. Been a good night here. Thanks to the Guardians. We didn't get Commissioner Luck tonight because of the weather. It's the only negative, but thanks to Mr. Tripp, John Peterson, Janet Duke, and Diana Rossini of ESPN for filling in. Fans, we'll talk to you later. Well, everyone, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a long video, but I wanted to give you a full effect what the night was like and get out what we saw in our Q&A with the Guardian staff and as well as Diane Rossini from ESPN. So, folks, we are exactly 52 days now away from kickoff. We'll talk to you later.